So I want to kind of talk about like why Gnosticism and OTO is important to me. I have spent like the last bunch of years trying to figure out what made me so different, in my opinion. Like, I am completely obsessed with like finding the answers as to what has been going on with us. And I have such a huge collection of materials, like so many books and so many documentaries and just so much compiled material and binders full of stuff that I printed off because I couldn't find it in books. It was just like, you know, PDFs and printed papers and, you know, stuff. And, you know, it kind of like leads into the whole idea that, you know, ignorance in this day and age is really a choice because there's so much of this material. And I think that whenever I see someone like posting a really, really ignorant opinion, which, you know, as you can imagine, kind of happens all the time, especially, you know, political opinions, but, you know, I always just chalk it up to the fact that they probably just really don't read a whole lot of meaningful books. And, you know, what it comes down to is that in this age of like YouTube and stuff, I have definitely used YouTube as a tool to learn so much. You know, you watch one documentary and it leads you to a bunch of others, but for me, like what makes a credible source on YouTube is that the person is like me, independently published and stuff like that. And it's like an added bonus if, say, they have like maybe a college degree or something in a field where they have like lots of experience to talk about. And then that'll usually lead you to all of these people's papers that they've written and, you know, just all this other material to read. And that's kind of what I look for, you know, is these independent scientists and, you know, people just writing about their experiences and what they've learned and kind of like adding it into my tapestry of knowledge. And, you know, so there's a lot of reading and a lot of watching and listening. And what it came down to for me is that I have had so many interesting, you know, people criticize Facebook a lot. But I have used Facebook as the most interesting tool in a way that I think a lot of other people don't. Like, especially starting in about 2012 when I opened up my YouTube channel and I started talking with people all over the world about their experiences. That in itself led me to making friends with people in the Middle East and, you know, all of these awake people all over the world. And I have learned so much. Like, I have so many friends in Palestine and Egypt and, you know, just all of these people. And they post, you know, that their countries, okay, are having the same struggle ours is. We are overrun with corrupt political leaders everywhere. And every time there's a coup to try to make the government better or, you know, overthrow the tyrannical government of today, it just makes room for another one. And it's usually a staging anyway so that this other person's already set up to get in there. And so, like, you know, they want the same things that we want. And, you know, it's in these groups on Facebook, such as, like, The Battleground and David Icke, and I am in a bunch of Gnostic groups and Matrix groups and stuff like that. And it was especially, like, in the Gnostic group, I had been talking about, you know, my experience with dissociative identity disorder, and a lot of them pointed out that my dissociative identity disorder is really just a product of me paying attention in ways that most people don't. Like, I came to the realization a long time ago that if I'm the voice in my head, then who's the one listening and talking back? Or the other way around. And so it leads into this whole Gnostic complex of the third attention and things like that, where we realize that there are multiple voices in our head, and then to extrapolate upon that, someone also pointed out, because I had thrown the Bible, you know, right out the window, because it had been rewritten by people trying to control us for so long, I really didn't pay it any attention. But going back to, you know, Genesis and stuff like that, learning about the Nephilim and negative blood and who I am, someone pointed out to me that the whole idea of God and the devil and the unity concept of ascension is that we realize that we are both God and the devil, that they are both inside of us all the time, that that is actually a synonym for the duality within us all. And that basically, like in my case, what I have done is, you know, split myself in half so that there is me and there is Triss. And then I have like subalters that come off of them apparently. But regardless, the point is that, you know, that is the duality within myself, okay? And so really it's just like unifying the two, and healing from DID involves the same process where you try to fuse them all back together. And so that in itself is a unity, but it's on the microcosmic scale. The macrocosmic scale of it all is that we're all connected. The only thing that separates us is the ego personality, okay? And so when the ego personality separates us all, it gives us the illusion of separation. If you let go of that, which I know that there are so many people that are against the concept of letting the ego go right now in this day and age, and one of my mentors has a really good speech on it about how we should be friends with our ego. And I think that to some extent is very true too. You know, some people say that, I love you, baby. Some people say that I have like a double ego because I have two personalities, right? I love you too, Mom. Well, anyways, some people think that I have a double ego. But basically what it all leads down to is what happens when one of us isn't here. Like, only one of us can be talking to you at one time, okay? Otherwise, we have to shift and let the other person in. We go other places and into other people's bodies and other planets and just infinite spaces and times when we're not here. And Triss actually wrote a blog about this, which I will link to in the article and maybe read for you guys later.
I really love my mommy.
I really love you too. What it comes down to with unity is that I am you and you are me, and we are wriggling the phone. We are all actually each other. There is only the illusion of separation. And so when you're mean to someone, you're mean to yourself. And when I tease people, I do it knowing that. And especially in my groups I was talking about online, like there's this one girl, Julia Riskin, and they call her Julia with a J-E-W because she's always inciting like so much like arguments about the Holocaust and stuff, but story for another time. Anyways, I tease her, but I do it lovingly because I know that she is me and I am her, and that, you know, we are all actually connected. Like, you know, how the coral would all believe the polyps are having a separate experience because that's what they perceive to be their experience, but in reality, they're all together linked, and so are we. And so when you let go of your ego, you basically go into this shared field or space or vibration. Like, there are a million names that I could try and come up with to explain it to you, but that's what all of this is that you're hearing, is just words and me trying to describe these experiences, okay? So you go into this shared field and you can experience, you know, everything. It's all shared. It's all shared. And basically it leads down to the fact of, you know, the kingdom of God is within us. That's exactly what it means. And through letting go of the ego for even moments at a time to start with, you experience this. And these are all things that Gnosticism has taught me. And the only reason I'm not sitting in a mental institution right now is because I have studied so hard these... Yeah, babe, that chair is broken. We need to get another sun chair for tanning. Anyways, that's just a small percentage of what Gnosticism has taught me. And, you know, I could extrapolate on it more, but it just... to a person who doesn't experience it, it sounds so crazy. And I understand that too. And, you know, when I see people, like, that are so anti-Illuminati and stuff like that, I realize that I actually was one of those people once. Like, I resonate and see myself. Yeah, you can have your blanket. I see myself in those people all the time. Actually, the only reason that I ended up joining OTO was because in one of my groups, I had a really amazing conversation with one of my mentors who is like a lodge master, former lodge master and Mason. And so we ended up talking, and he basically ended up like recommending all these books to me to read. And, you know, we ended up finding out, like, my husband's grandfather was a 32nd degree Mason, and he passed down Morals and Dogma to us, which I haven't completely finished, but I've read parts of so much. And, you know, it's like, I think you could study that book your whole life. It's huge. But that's basically what I do. And so that's one of the ones. And, you know, the Kabbalion, I read it, but it has so much to teach you in it. So much, especially if you're trying to understand the mental universe, which actually leads into the holographic universe. And that's kind of where right now quantum physics is merging with religion, because what they've discovered is that basically if you split a particle small enough, it will exist in two places at once, which is supposed to be impossible, right? It actually entirely rewrites the laws of physics. And so with dissociative identity disorder, it's basically the same thing. Like, in my head, everything that makes up my mind has been split small enough that I can exist here at one time and somewhere else in another time. And so, you know, it's just, there's so much where quantum physics and string theory and particle physics is merging with religion. And what it comes down to, especially with certain particle physicists, is that there's a strong amount of evidence to, I won't say prove, because proving anything to anyone is basically impossible. But it kind of shows us that we're living in a hologram or a simulated reality. And so you have to teach yourself the laws of this reality the same as you do the other ones. Whereas if you're good at lucid dreaming and astral projection and stuff like that, you're probably really good in the other worlds at putting yourself somewhere you want to be, making things happen, coming up with, you know, different ways to escape situations, being really creative in the other realms. And that's what you have to do here. So, it kind of basically ties into all of that. But these are some of the things that, you know, Gnosticism and research from, you know, different scientists and all of that has taught me. And I definitely do agree that I think we're living in a simulated reality. Yeah. And it sounds crazy at first, but if you actually go research it and read the papers, like, it actually all makes quite a bit of sense. I don't know if many of you have heard of the Mandela effect, but that is definitely something that I find very interesting. A lot of people blame CERN, but I think that it's really only, it's proof that everything is, anyways, it kind of like gets into the whole Mandela effect, where my dissociative identity disorder isn't so much that I do have these lapses of time and the parts of me do take over, but I also realize that things are not all the same as what I remember. And that's where I think people will experience symptoms of dissociative identity disorder and schizophrenia, but it's because the realities are being merged and not everything is staying the same. And so some of us that pay attention have the old memories, but the rest of the people that just go along get rewritten with the new stuff, and they don't question anything. So they think, based on what other people say, you know, around them, that, you know, that's their memory. And in that sense, all of those people with one certain memory system are influencing other people. But there are like those of us that remember when it was Bernstein Bears and not Bernstein Bears. and little things like that. I mean, there are hundreds of examples I could go into of things that have changed. I actually pulled out a 1987 copy of the Bernstein Bears because I did not believe this. I thought it couldn't be true. I pulled out a 1987 copy of the Bernstein Bears that I had when I was a kid, okay? No, it said Bernstein. Like, effectively, this reality is being written over. Things are changing. And you might remember them a certain way that they aren't anymore. And so I think that part of my confusion in dissociative identity disorder is actually this, Mandela effect happening. And so I'm always going to remember things the way that they really were. But it seems like every newer generation has like a different set of memories. And that actually made me realize right then why I had had so many arguments about history with people in my family, especially like my father-in-law, who said when he was a kid he was taught basically that they had found bodies in the pyramids. Obviously everyone in my generation was taught that there were no bodies ever found in the pyramids. And it's like every generation, it's not just that we're taught differently every generation, it's also that things are changing all the time, especially with the Mandela effect, with CERN affecting everything. And I don't really think that it's something to be scared of, but it is something that is exposing our holographic reality. I think I'm going to pause there for a few.